So first thing we're going to do is invite you to close your eyes, breathe out, and if you're touching anyone else, just find your own space in your body, in your bubble. As you breathe out, just breathing out and bringing your soul into your body. So, and then inhaling, completely filling your lungs. And then next time you exhale, open your mouth, relax your jaw and give a sigh. And we're going to do this a few times. So inhaling, completely filling your lungs, expanding. And as you exhale, let go of today. Using your breath, using your sound. Inhaling the energy of the earth. Allowing it to feed you and nourish you. Exhaling, letting go of everything that was your journey to be here today and now. So when we inhale, we're also inhaling the present moment. We're inhaling life. We're inhaling our freedom of choice. Exhale, letting go of the past, of everything which no longer serves. When we bring awareness into our body and bubble, we bring awareness into our sensate body, into our sensual body, into our senses. Dropping out of mind into hearts, out of mind into body, out of doing and into being. What does it mean to be a human being? What does it mean to be a self-sovereign human being? What does it mean to source ourselves rather than sourcing from somebody else? How does it feel if our happiness or our wholeness is not dependent upon another person or place? Just imagine. And we invite you to take one hand to your heart and one hand to your genitals, to your sex. And just feeling in to your connection to your heart. Your connection to your sexuality. And the connection between your heart and your sexuality. And how does it feel if we breathe in the energy of the earth through our genitals? That connection to the earth being, to our bodies. The only home, the only temple we have for this earth walk. Being aware of your breath, all the way out, all the way in. Aware of any tension in your body. Just as you breathe out, relaxing and letting that go into the earth as well. And when you feel relaxed and centered into your body, into your bubble, I invite you to open your eyes. And my question first is, where are all the men?
Here, 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 and there.
We have, thank you, four pillars of the four directions.
I'll make noise enough for three.
That's good. I'm happy to you give me some support here.
But it's beautiful in a way, because often we go, as women, we go looking for the man outside of ourselves. And the first relationship and the most important relationship we are here to develop is the one with our own inner masculine and inner feminine. Because if this one comes into harmony, this one naturally appears outside. So we don't actually have to go looking for it. It's a simple vibrational resonance, universal law of attraction. So if we're still looking outside for our dream man, it's often because he's not very well cultivated in here. And that often becomes, we didn't have a very good role model often, many of us. So what does that mean? What does it look like? In our new way of relating, where we're no longer falling in love, which often ends up with energetic attachment and dependency. The journey in this day and age is one of becoming love, where that happiness, that wholeness is not dependent upon anyone or anything, and then sharing from that space.
My name is Matt, and I'm into Tantra sexuality quite a while, 17, 18 years. And just to give you just like a very briefly understanding in the beginning is just everybody who has been speaking up in the moment when it comes to you, there's just like this the heart is starting to just like beat a little bit faster, a little bit of insecurity, and then, oh my God, what am I going to say? Yeah, everybody has that? Yeah. So this is what it is in Tantra, is not to create an image about something, it's about being very present in the first place with that what is in the moment. And dropping into the core of vulnerability through innocence, and allow ourselves to speak through innocence, just to share who we really are. That is not about putting a mask on or an identification, just being authentic in the moment with that what is. So just as a start. I've been teaching Tantra, sacred sexuality since approximately 5 years. I'm a global nomad, I'm gypsy, I'm traveling around. I just cutted all my my ropes and doing session work, doing workshops, public talks or talks like this in private environment, and educating people in the field of sexuality, sacred sexuality, spirituality, consultancies for couples, for individuals, for men, women, any kind of topic that is related to sexuality is part of the work that I'm offering. Since approximately 3 years ago, I met this beautiful lady here, the Madame, and she was introducing me into the field of shamanism and the way of how shamanism is woven together without creating any concepts, with this life force energy, this energy of creation of the earth itself. That this is nothing that is just separated from us, and that this is nothing we can put in concepts, but the shamanic aspect to explain that from this very unique being of the earth where we all from is a very vital part of that what we share. So I'll just give it to you from there.
And my name's Leah. I'm originally from Aotearoa, New Zealand, way down under. And I left home when I was 20 for a year or two, and that was 25 years ago. So I've been wandering the globe ever since. Spent a lot of time in developing countries, a lot of time in Africa, in conservation work. And about 9 years ago, I guess, I started to wake up to my spirituality, my spiritual connection. And this desire to know myself became an insatiable hunger that I just pursued with all of my passion. It's like, who am I? What am I doing here? What's this life about? And eventually that took me out of Africa, out of my conservation work, away from a 20-year relationship, to discover myself. And I had started working more intuitively at this stage with people and with the earth. In my clinic in the Omo Valley in Ethiopia, I used to have sometimes 30, 40 people in the morning, some for allopathic medicine, some for energy medicine. Some say, we've got worms or malaria and we need treatment, or others say, it's moving in my body, take it out. So it's just like, okay, trusting that whatever, I can help them somehow, but then also realizing, I guess, that there's a whole lot going on in this unseen world that affects our reality that we're living in, that we're walking in, that we really have no idea about, unless we open our reality to the understanding of this. So that took me on a journey of a more formal shamanic training through a tradition of the Four Winds Society based in the Andean and Amazon jungle. So it came from South America. And it was a journey of letting go. So for all of you who are sitting here saying, I don't know anything, that's great. Because most of us go through life learning everything and then realizing we've actually got to unlearn what we've learned to find out who we are. So the shamanic energy medicine I found to be the most powerful and beautiful medicine ever in helping us let go of what's not ours. What we've inherited in this life, what we've inherited in other lives, what we've inherited from our ancestors, our society, and what's constantly being informed to us. It's possible to let that all go. And if we don't create any more, we can actually really discover who we are. Because inside us there's a divine spark that has a vibration of who we are and our purpose for being here. And the more we let go, the more space we make and clouds we clear, that vibration becomes so strong it naturally attracts to us everyone and everything we need to fulfill that purpose. And that is there for everyone who's willing to make the journey. So on discovering answers to those few little questions, it was, I guess I wasn't walking out in the world searching for myself anymore. I'd come home to myself, but knowing that it's really important to support other sisters and brothers who are ready to make that journey, to help them find an easy pathway there. Not my path, but their own path. And support them on that journey home, a journey of embodiment, at a really exciting time on our planet. There's a huge evolution of consciousness you're probably aware of in humanity. A huge awakening in the earth of that serpent and that dragon energy, that sexual energy. So for many of us who have never had sexuality tantra on the radar before, it's coming up. It's coming up in the earth, it's coming up in our bodies. And after years of repression of this energy, misuse and abuse of this energy, it can't be held back any longer. So it's really important that we bring consciousness to this. How to return the sacredness to the sexuality, how to cultivate this energy and use it wisely for creation. And creating the reality that we wish to live on this planet. Not the drama that's taking place at the moment, but the heaven on earth that is possible.
So, to give you another deeper understanding of what it might look like is, so we are all born from sex. So sex is a very vital part of our existence. Because without sex we wouldn't be here, because in one stage our parents had sex. And this is how we came into the world. So everything is in life based on sex. In springtime it's just like the flowers and the bees and the apples and the trees, and everything is just based on sex and procreation. So we are having all in specific individual relationship to sexuality. So this part of Tantra or sexuality, what we're pointing at, is nothing that we just want to put on somebody or something that somebody has to learn. It's your individual, unique access about that, how you explore sexuality. And nobody can tell you that's right, that's wrong, it's good or bad, or it has to be different. And it's not about putting something in and activate something. It's about taking everything away that is holding our natural flow of our life force energy, of our sexual energy back. So you want to have a little bit of an experience about that? Okay, so who of you don't like sex? Please lift your arm. Of course, we all do. So then let's get undressed and have some fun. So the question is, in the moment when I say, just let's get some undressed and have some fun, what is it doing into your neurology? What is it doing into yourself? What do you think in this very moment when I'm just doing that? Is there a slightly piece of shame involved, embarrassment?
All right, I'm out of here.
Yeah, or just like a little bit of, oh my God, what's going to happen next, kind of thing. Yeah. So this is part where we all coming from. We're having different influences in society, in upbringing, in teaching, from our parents, through religion. Whatever the background is, this is all stored in our neurology. It's all stored in our belief systems, and it's all stored in the way how we interact and operate. So it's not about to activate that, what we already are, or what we already are connected. It is about that what is related to our sexual energy that is based on shame, on fear, on guilt, embarrassment, everything that is holding that back, to just stalk that, becoming aware of that, getting that out of the way, and being the natural sexual being that we are.
So how do we do that?
How do we do that? That's a good question.
Maybe we have to take a look at what's informing us. And I guess the reason why our two worlds met is because my world of shamanism had taken me to the doors of sacred sexuality. And now I could see what was going on the many layers of reality. I was horrified because there was such a lack of sacredness in it. There was a lot of people claiming themselves as sexual healers, yet they hadn't done their own work, and they were feeding addictions and creating energetic attachments. There were entities operating through beings and have occults functioning, and it was just like, oh my goodness. But then I thought, okay, well, I'm here at this door for a reason, so let's go in and trust and keep walking. And that's where I met Matt, who had already been working, doing sexual body work for some time. I just started. And we exchanged a session with each other, which served me in embodying more as a priestess, as a tantrika, to work with people, work with men and women and their bodies and sexuality, as well as my energy medicine. And the same for Matt. You'd done a lot of work with people prior to that, who had had great shifts.
Yeah, so the main thing about this great shift is, so when I started with the tantric path, I was 27. And the first year was just about just self-exploration, just finding teacher, finding mentors, finding guidance, and exploring myself, reading books, and having interaction in the tantric field with other individuals who just called themselves tantric experience. So I did that for a couple of years, learned different techniques, modalities, skills, and came one day with my partner on this very point where we are in the situation of lovemaking, and in the tantric lovemaking there's something happening, and you describe that beautifully, where you just have the feeling you're merging with the cosmos, you're becoming one, and everything else is disappearing. Anybody else who had kind of this experience in their life? Yeah, a few very, very rarely. Every day, just every moment, here now, that's it. So having this experience and being in this for a while, that was coming something through me that I called liquid light. And that's just like light is just like pouring out of our skin, out of our eyes, and I had the feeling everybody should have that in their life. And that was when I had the first time this experience. I'm dedicated to just teach that, to give that around, just like find myself in the deepest core related to it and just share it. And that was my purpose, and so I went for that. And I did for a couple of years sessions and had really, really beautiful experience with men and women in this field, in this liquid light transmission, in the interaction, where the individual was just like disappearing into the oneness, into the expansion of this infinity. It was just like incredible experience, and that was a life-changing shift. And then I met them back half a year later, and something was just shrinking back into this kind of, they were just like miserable as before, and I just realized something is missing there, some important point to realize themselves and opening up into this infinity just constantly. And that was when I met Leah, and there was a specific process that came along that was just opening my eyes and made that very, very clear, and that's the illumination process. And that was just very, very powerful to go to the core of any experience that we're having in life that is holding us back to be this individual, ecstatic, beautiful, expanded being that we are. Amen.
So it means taking a look at what we're carrying in our bubble or our blueprint that's informing the way we're walking in the world, that making us be who we are the way we are and interact with the world.
So in this beautiful line of what is informing our blueprint, we have something very important not put in there, and this is all the lovers, all the boyfriends, all the influence from man in this life and in other lives. Okay.
It's to look at it when you're talking about relationships. We're talking about going through time and space, weaving our way and taking the weeds out. But what happens, because we're living in a culture that rites of passage is no longer a part of, a lot of us still have umbilical cords to our mother and father. And what happens is, and normally at age 7 we go through our first initiation process, which is releasing the etheric umbilical cords. They're really important until that age. They're important for that child up to 7 years of age. But at 7 years of age, by going through that rite of passage, releasing that cord, a child starts to develop its own independence and gets the sense of responsibility, taking responsibility for its actions. Without that, if it's still being told this is right, that's no, do this, don't do that, then they're still looking outside of themselves for guidance. So what happens if often there's still an umbilical cord from us to our mother. As women, in woman's body, often we have a cord from our womb to our father, because often our first projections of sexuality are on the male figure in the household. So what happens is, if we don't clear these, if we don't release these, we often end up unplugging from them and plugging into the partner, which makes a very limited energetic space for the evolution of that relationship. It's why we end up falling in love and creating codependency in that relationship. So on this journey returning home, this journey into wholeness, releasing all that, we're returning to self-sovereignty. So we're not sourcing ourselves this way anymore. We learn to source ourselves again from the earth and the cosmos.
So when all this is removed out of the blueprint that is informing our body, and we are totally, absolutely free, individual, unique being, and just walking our life, our path, exactly how our life purpose is made for that, then we open and free to explore sexuality in a very healthy, very beautiful way. So the way of Tantra is a beautiful way. So there are many different layers of Tantra, many different layers of sexuality. I want to put that sexuality part aside in the beginning and just let you know what it means to just dive into the field of Tantra. So there's a lot of stuff to read about Tantra. There are a lot of good books, a lot of good teacher. That what we want to share hasn't anything to do with any religion or any belief system or anything that you have to study or to learn. It's this very individual, unique way of Tantra where sexuality is involved. Get that back in. And as I said, this part of sexuality is something where each and one of you and us has an individual access into the self-expression of sexual energy. And no religion and no society influence and nothing else can tell us it has to be different or it has to be changed or it's right or good or bad or however. So when we have found this individual way, then nobody can just like do that for us. So the way of how sexual energy in the tantric way becomes sacred is a very, very beautiful way. And I just paint a little picture about that. And the way of sacred sexuality in the field of Tantra is it's very much in the present moment, and it's the possibility of rising consciousness through full embodied sexual energy. That sounds so beautiful. What does it mean? That the body is fully involved in that, and the body is the main part that has to be involved. Most people, they are so in their mind and out of their body that they actually don't know what it is to be in their body. And the main thing to be in the body is, and we all have that, is that our skin and our entire body has to be involved in that. That is not visual, that is not a mindset, it's not a specific performance or anything else or a goal or an agenda. It's just the physicality of the body, and each and one of you can do that. And this is how it is. You just put your arm or your hand on your arm and you just feel just this touch in the present moment. Nothing else. This is what it is. There is no history, there is no future, there's just the present moment of the sensation of the touch. Nothing else. So if you would just stroke the way your arm exactly how you like it, so the soft way, the gentle way, where you're feeling, oh, that feels actually nice, the way how you individually like that, you releasing some neurotransmitter and body chemistry in your body. And the only one I would like to mention right now is oxytocin, oxytocin. Anybody don't know what that is, oxytocin? Everybody knows. It's a cuddle hormone, the love drug. This is this part that relaxes our neurology into the parasympathetic in relaxation, rejuvenation, where we're just like, it feels really good. So we can have oxytocin with ourselves, we can have that with our friend, with our partner, with our pet, with our granny. We can have oxytocin when we hug, when we kiss, and when we snuggle, when we cuddle. Oxytocin is our friend, and we can't have enough oxytocin. So if everybody would just like hug in the world every day at least 7 to 10 times, the world would be a very peaceful place because we have enough oxytocin just like to stop all wars. So oxytocin is something very, very important, and that's the main thing, is the soft, gentle touch. The physicality, the skin. So oxytocin is all our friend. So that feels good and relaxing. So when we have that in our body and we just feel that with our partner, with ourselves, and it's like, that feels good, and then all of a sudden that starts to get a little bit kind of just like, kind of itchy down there. Yeah. Oh, that feels good. When sexual energy comes in, yeah? When you're just like, oh, yeah, I want more of that. Yum. Ooh. What that is released in our neurology, in our body, in our physicality, is dopamine. Yeah? Dopamine is that one where we want more of, this that makes us going. So the reward center in our brain is based on this dopamine. Sexual energy is a highly dopamine transmitter. We have dopamine a lot when we're eating sugar. It's a good replacement. Smoking cigarettes, drinking alcohol, caffeine, using drugs, shopping a lot, cleaning the house, gambling, going on internet. There are 1,000 things of getting dopamine to replacing this kind of little, that feels good. So dopamine is something that is based on sexuality, and most people replacing this for a lot of other substances in their life. It's a good way just to have a look of where we're replacing all these substances for our own sexuality. So beside that, we all have dopamine in our body because we are all sexual, we all love sex. As we just said, now when you lift the arm, we are all sexual, we all have a connection to our sexuality. So when oxytocin and dopamine comes into our neurology, it opens up in a certain time. It takes approximately 15 to 30 minutes. Our thymus gland, it's just like here, the heart chakra, and it releases endorphins. You can have a lot of cacao to have, or chocolate, to have endorphins in your body. That feels good, but it's still not the same as if you're having sex. But it's a good replacement as well, and it tastes really good. So all these endorphins, when we're having dopamine and oxytocin in our body, that creates already kind of, my God, that feels yummy. It's really, really nice.
And this is often where we give our power away. Oh, I love you. Because of this feeling. But that feeling is simply from your own pharmaceutical factory. It's not about them.
So everybody knows what I'm talking about? Very simple. Okay, I'll just make it more simple. When this just is for half an hour approximately in our body, and it passes the blood-brain barrier, it reaches something in our head. This is a so-called pineal gland. And it releases something that calls DMT, dimethyltryptamine. Anybody heard about that? Ayahuasca? Yeah, there's this big time in there. Or mushrooms, LSD, iboga, different substances, creating all this hallucinative molecule. They are similar like DMT. So when this is just kicking our pineal gland and releasing DMT, we're releasing DMT when we sleep, when we dream, of course, when we are born, when we die, and when we make tantric sex. So it takes approximately half an hour to an hour that this is getting released. And what happens is, when DMT is getting released, it kicks us absolutely into the present moment, beyond our senses, and we are realizing the present moment on another dimension, on another reality that is already divine, where we're just seeing different stuff. When I said just like, oh my God, there's just like light coming, pouring out of your skin and your eyes, and just like, this is just amazing. This is what we're able to perceive when DMT is released in our pineal gland. And we all have a pineal gland. None of us is without that, because we're all human beings. And DMT, by the way, is in all substances out there, in the nature, in any piece of grass, tree, animal, everywhere is DMT. It's a spiritual molecule. So, making a long story short, and not too boring, is the reason why we humans, mostly men, but women are mostly suffering on this behavior of men, why we can't achieve that is sex is too short. And sex is too short because women coming too quick. Is that true? Women coming too quick?
No.
Oh, actually, this is just it's so not true. So the thing is, the worldwide average of sexual interaction, of sexual intercourse, of when men and women starting to have sex, or most men having self-activation going, or women having that going, is the worldwide average of sexual interaction from sexual energy starts till the end of sexual interaction, what's most of the time the orgasm. Anybody has any idea how long the average of that is?
3 minutes.
3 minutes? Wow, good.
Yeah, which I think is less. For a man, you mean?
The average, yeah?
Oh, I think it's probably 45 to 60 seconds.
It can be 30 seconds.
Yeah.
It can be 30 seconds. But the worldwide average, because there are other countries that's like good lovers, they're just lifting it up, but it's still 7.5 minutes. And 7.5 minutes to go into a realm of divinity is just like impossible. Okay, thank you for coming. Have a beautiful evening.
So the answer is?
Let me see. You laugh, but really, that's where our sexuality is in the Western society. Often it's goal-orientated, friction-based sex that ends in a contractive peak orgasm. That for many people is a stress relief. To take them off their sympathetic nervous system so that they can rest. Because our society's got people programmed now that we're up in the morning, go, 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 until we fall exhausted into bed and sleep, or have sex, ejaculate, and it's over. So it's like, what happens then if we take away the goal in sexuality and enter a space that's important in your diary as any other date in your diary or time, and just go on a journey of exploration from a place of relaxation with no fixed destination. It's like anything's possible then in that space.
So, in the beginning I asked the question, who don't like sex? Everybody likes sex. Next question, who don't like orgasm? Please lift your hand. Oh, that's the same. Because this is how it looks, and you will laugh about that, or not, or maybe that's sad, but we all love orgasm. And there's nothing wrong about orgasm, because without orgasm we wouldn't be here. But there's one important thing to know about orgasm, and I'm just talking about the contractive peak orgasm that is mostly related to sexual interaction through man. And this is, I'm just talking about my own species here, and because I'm one of these, and I have discovered that, and I now walking the world, talking to men. This is how it is for mostly all of us. And I would say 5% of men in the world who are ready to step out of that is when sexual energy starts, there is an orgasm, there is an end, there's an ejaculation in there. And I just want to explain a little bit, because you asked so kindly, what is the solution for that? So the thing is, as I said, there's nothing wrong about orgasm. And we can just like do that for the rest of our life. It's all great. We can do that in 45 seconds or in 7.5 minutes or 15 minutes, how long as we like. But there's one important piece in that to know and to embody, is that the orgasm has one purpose only. And that's reproduction, making babies. But sexual energy is not only for reproduction. But this is how we all, and I was included in that group, living their life with sexual energy. So there's the middle path of sacred sexuality where we have all the capacity in our own physical, chemical factory to just bliss out forever. Or we're having another path that is just like putting the lead on our sexual energy, that is just like based on shame, guilt, fear, or on any other influences through whoever, whatever. What is based on this blueprint, what we have talking about, making it wrong. Or it goes in the other way, we just like whenever we're feeling it, just like give it away, give it away, give it away. So there's one important piece to know about that. So there's procreation is sexual energy, just of making babies, but there are other steps in that involved, and this is where the tantric path starts. Is that there is another part of sexual energy that makes sexual energy already very playful, if this is not based on procreation, and that's recreation, being playful, having fun. Just play with sexual energy, with your partner, with yourself. Do it wherever, however, whenever it suits you. But don't peek it out. I just come there in a few seconds why that is. But stay with that. Stay with the sexual energy and finish with an arousal. Don't finish it up. Then there is another piece in that involved, that's rejuvenation. Rejuvenation is just based on, you just stay healthy, just stay strong, you just contain your sexual energy, you just let it move through your body. It rejuvenates your organs, it keeps you young. Did I say that I'm 45? 70. Well, in a way. And another step, and that's an important step, is transformation. This is what happens is when we're just blissing out there and DMT is released. It's highly transformative. When we have that with a partner that goes beyond our conceptual state of mind, where we're just expanding into unity, consciousness, it's highly transformative. It's just beautiful. And there is no reason, if we don't want to procreate, to just go for procreation. And we can go there for as long as we like, as long as we want, as long as possible, as long we just want to dive into this field of pleasure.
And also not to make procreation separate. If in today's world, it's possible to open conscious communication with the soul prior to conception. So it's actually taking the tantric path, and if you're choosing to conceive, to bring a soul into the world, is to conceive consciously at the higher vibrational levels of tantric lovemaking. It's not meant to be an accident or by chance. You can consciously call a soul in open communication, even find out where is the best place to conceive this being and bring them into the world.
So to come back to the 45 seconds or 7.5 minutes or how long ever that is. By the way, if anybody has to go to the toilet, just leave. You don't have to wait. Is what happens is, and we all love orgasms, right? Nobody has said, no, I don't love orgasm is great, we just want to have that. But the question is it really the orgasm, or is it just the few seconds, the few moments before the orgasm? Where is the highest sexual arousal? Where is the highest expansion you're having? Is it the orgasm, or is it before the orgasm? It's before the orgasm. Because this is what we most know, the orgasm is a contraction. The contractive peak orgasm that's based on procreation. It's yeah? But before that, we're just like, wow, my God, it's just like, wow, you're so beautiful. Everything's just like, oh, wow, I could just want to cuddle and touch you and kiss you forever. Yeah? You know what I mean? And in the moment when the orgasm happens, just like, okay, done, just like a little bit stroking here and there, and just like more in love with the cushion and the blanket than with our partner that we were before. No? Anybody knows kind of, that rings a bell, ding-a-ling-a-ling? Yeah? This is, except you riding the wave. But this is another chapter. So, but I'm just talking about the normal casual way of sexual interaction that we all know, where most of us come from, what our upbringing is about, and how we're educating ourselves through internet and through friends who just knows it from others, who just knows it from others who know exactly the same. They don't know. So what happens is, in the moment of contraction of procreation, the procreative peak orgasm, what happens is that what we know in our genitals is not the orgasm. That's an important piece. What we know in our genitals is a spasmic reflex. The orgasm just happens in the brain, in the reward system. The reward system is that's telling us we want more. The dopamine piece, caffeine, nicotine, alcohol. So that tells us, just like, give me more of that. This is, well, when we're having an orgasm, we want more orgasm because it makes us feel good. But there's a hook in that. So when this contraction happens in the brain and we're having this orgasm, there's something coming in, a neurotransmitter or a hormone, that's serotonin. And serotonin makes us really euphoric, just like, wow, hallelujah, we're just going on a fly here just for a couple of seconds. Because it comes up and goes down immediately, it takes a couple of minutes. And when this comes down, something else comes in that calls prolactin. Prolactin is that what makes, for us men, the erection goes down. And women producing prolactin when they breastfeed. It stops their sexual interest. So prolactin itself, when this is rising, it drops the level of oxytocin, the softness of the skin. It drops the level of dopamine. It's just like, yeah, give me more. And it's just like, oh, just go away. That's enough. So it drops the dopamine level, and it drops the level of DMT. And one important piece that what we're perceiving as present moment and as unity consciousness, when we're having this wow, this is when our left and right brain hemisphere, what's for the feminine quite natural, and for us men it's just like quite a lot of work. When this is crossed over the left and the right brain hemisphere, it switched back on the left side, the linear, goal-orientated, time, space thinking. Just like, okay, so we have just made up, now it's time to go to work, or just something, I'm really busy now. I just like, I've done my job here and just like, go for it. And so, but the interesting thing, when all that drops, it goes on a kind of a roller coaster, and dopamine up, dopamine low, and we're just feeling kind of energetically, emotionally in the mood swinging, and it's very much related for women. Just having emotionally mood swinging, feeling sad. For us men is a lot of anxiety involved in that. Everything is we're getting grumpy, is a lot of anger involved in that, and sexual, just like disinterest. So when this goes on this kind of roller coaster and we're feeling bad, we're just going for the next kind of little fix to feel better again. But there's one important piece: when we're having an orgasm and all this kind of stuff goes and goes, crazy freaking out, it kicks us on a hangover, a pre or post-orgasmic hangover situation. So anybody knows how long that might take, and after an orgasm having hangover? Just give me something.
Half an hour.
Half an hour?
A day.
A day? Just guess.
2 days.
So 2 days? Yeah, well, some men can that, some. But it takes 3 weeks. The post-orgasmic hangover that causes the irritation of oxytocin, of dopamine, the stop of DMT release, the left brain hemisphere, the activating the sympathetic nervous system, going on a run and replacing everything, having more dopamine. It takes up to 3 weeks. And now here comes the question that maybe counts not for you and not for your partner, but maybe for some. How often do you have sexual interaction and no orgasm? And when you're having an orgasm, how long is the gap between one orgasm and another orgasm? Welcome to the world of Tantra. Still not the solution you're asking for.
You're still patient.
So the main thing, that sounds horrible, because just like, what is that with my orgasm? This is all I have. And this is what most people, men and women, actually suffer from. This is the only thing I'm having. That's my only 5 minute just like thing with myself, my release. And this is the important thing into waking up through sexual energy and becoming aware of where we are unconscious with that. where we're following a reproductive pattern, a pattern of an addictive interaction with ourselves or with the substances, dopamine, that's based on an orgasm. It's just like a fix. The highest level of dopamine we can have next to a heroin shot is an orgasm. It's even more than cocaine. So the main thing, and that's the importance about that, is rebooting our neurology, rebooting our physicality, and getting in connection to this temple, getting in connection to the earth. This is the earth, this is the beauty of it. And the main thing that it needs is the activation of the physicality, releasing oxytocin as much as possible, and making self-pleasuring as a daily praxis without going into the addictive, repetitive pattern of peaking it out. Sexual energy starts and ends with a peak. Just being with that and letting that in our neurology, in our cellular system just expand. And this is where it starts. Where it can go is in totally another dimension.
Any questions?
What are you trying to do? Are you trying to extend it? Are you trying to make it better? Are you trying to...
Well, a main thing for us men is that sexual energy for us men is, as we know it, is just procreative. And this is mostly for us men. When we have sexual energy and we're getting hard and we're just feeling that just like hallelujah, wow, it's just, it has this agenda and the goal, and that's the end, and that's a contractive peak orgasm. But there's much more than that. And much more than that is that in the tantric way, how I learned that in the beginning is not extend the way to the contractive peak orgasm and to the orgasm, is a way of relaxing and into sexual energy and into the expansion and starting to feel orgasmic waves washing through our body. It's a very feminine aspect of entering the field of sexuality. It's not the goal orientation and it's not the focus on the peak. It's just like the relaxation and the expansion.
And it gives a man an opportunity to discover his multi-orgasmic capacity, which otherwise he'd probably never experience. And it's not also to make orgasm wrong either. It's just an opportunity to open a door to another reality to experiment in. Yeah.
Thank you for that question. Does it answer your question?
And
Not completely, but I'm getting it.
Okay, so...
But it's really interesting in our world today. Most young men, their first sexual interactions are happening through internet porn. And what's happening with internet porn, it's all happening through mind. It's all happening through imagery. Everything's happening in the brain, including the orgasm. So the more they do this, the more disconnected they become from their body, the earth. They're literally bypassing their body. And it's causing a huge amount of erectile dysfunction and premature ejaculation in man. And also, for young men, lacking their inability to relate, to communicate anything. So it's actually a huge virus that's happening in our world, in the younger generation, and some of the older generation too.
Yeah, what's coming now is about that question is that we most have learned as men that that the orgasm itself is a contraction, and that we learn in the point of no return. What is this? Anybody don't know what the point of no return is? Is this point on orgasm where it doesn't matter what happens. When you just go over this point, even if your mama and your grandmama is coming into the room, when you're going over the point of no return, you will come. The point of no return, you can't go back. When you just reach that, you're just over it. So what happens with us men is when we're reaching this point of no return, our pelvic area, our prostate, is starting to contract. And this is what we most men have learned through controlling, in the very young age of controlling pee and poo, is contracting, holding, contracting the anus, contracting prostate, and controlling that. And by controlling that, we're causing exactly the same reflex that we're trying to avoid. And hasn't anything to do with relaxation and expansion, it's still a controlling and contraction. So it's not a new learning, it's an unlearning of what is causing the contraction, bringing the unconscious in the conscious, where the contraction and the controlling pattern is just coming in and holding that back.
So, excuse me, so that could actually be cause for a lot of men of maybe prostate problems.
Absolutely.
It's why we have so much problems with prostate cancer now in the world,
Yeah.
And also because sacred sexuality as a temple art has been so pushed aside. It's like, who do you go for with issues around your reproductive area? If you're going for a doctor, or the doctors might have a poke and a prod around, scan whatever, this is wrong with you, take this. And then a psychologist might say, oh, it's in the mind, antidepressants, blah, blah, blah. And that's it. But there's actually no real conscious, present touch. And remember, this body is the earth body, so anything this body has experienced, it carries a memory of. So that's conscious, what we're aware of, or any unconsciousness. All of the memory is carried in this body. So for women who have experienced unconscious penetration, rough or hard sex, inspections done without consciousness or presence, childbirth that's been painful, all of this is stored here. And there's very few women I've met who aren't carrying things from their mothers and their grandmothers and their great-grandmothers in their womb area. So it's a huge amount is stored here that our medical profession is not addressing because they don't know, or they don't have the tools to, or they're not yet open to that reality. So when we open to this reality, there's a lot we can do for ourselves and each other in making space and clearing and resensitizing this area and reclaiming our womb and choosing consciously how and who we want to share that with.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Just, I don't want to stupid question. Was there a time, years back, when we have a difference between procreation and tantra, I suppose?
Oh, yeah.
I would say it's the other way. Procreation was part of Tantra.
Well, yeah,
it wasn't separate.
Exactly,
yeah.
It was right. It wasn't a time that is just before the Christianity has been taking over in our Western society and has reprogramming us or programming us in the way how it should be or how it shouldn't be. A time before patriarchy, a time where matriarchy or where the divine feminine or the goddess was the deliverer of the beauty of spirituality, of divinity. Yeah,
But
the temple arts is something that is an ancient wisdom that's based on the temple of Isis that goes many thousand years back, and this is how it looks around the world, that this temple art is starting to wake up again. And this is a part of this work. What we're offering is you can't go to normal massage practitioner and getting a connection consciously in a touch in the genital area.
And also that is everything also around childbirth. Childbirth is supposed to be an ecstatic orgasmic experience. And the only reason it's not is because we're contracted and we're carrying so much history here. It's holding this area closed instead of allowing it to relax, open and expand. And that's a huge step for us as women to reclaim that. If we want to choose to have a child, we do it consciously and choose a really ecstatic birth.
How many mothers do we have here? Just quite a few. So, can you give birth when you're contracting, when you're holding? It's painful and possible. You can't. You just have to let go at one point, right? So the way how this temple art came to us is through the feminine, through women, through the midwife work. my way of starting into Tantra, into sexuality, was a way of where I have learned doing the Kegeling exercise. Anybody know what the Kegeling exercise is? You just like doing this, just to do that everywhere, and you just stay at the red light, and you're just contracting your pelvic area as if you're holding your pee back, and just like holding as strong as you can. And this is what it looks like. This is how the pelvic area becomes, just like a kind of a strong, rough, unfeelable kind of something down there. And this is how society is just like informing women, just like be tight, just massage the man, give him pleasure, and it's just for him, and all this kind of stuff that is around. And I've done that for 10 years in a specific kind of teaching. I just learned that, just like I was the master in contraction and controlling my orgasm. I was just like I could do that. And what happens is I was just like totally fucking up my neurology. How that looks like, I was just running on a sexual wall and was causing for myself erectile dysfunction and premature ejaculation, and I had no idea who to ask, where to go, what to do. I was asking my so-called teacher, and so, what am I doing wrong? Just like, yeah, just do it, just do it stronger, just do it really, and I was so desperate. I was starting to take erection pills, and to relax, I started to smoke marijuana. That was made everything even worse. So I came to a point, and that was approximately 4 years ago, where I realized that this is not the way. So how it came to me in this point was that the answer are women. And how I got that was through a midwife. And what this midwife is doing to women was, she's an ecstatic birth midwife. When women giving birth, and women can't contract and hold when they're giving birth, so you have to relax, you have to opening up. And what she's doing is she's doing a so-called de-armouring on the women's cervix and on the vagina walls, to taking the tension out of this control issue, to just let go. And every woman who is going through her hands has the capacity of having ecstatic birth. So the next step, what we actually realized out of that was how can we combine that with the tantric field and with this temple art? How can women opening up into an ecstatic expression without the masculine way of contracting in the peak orgasm, going into this expansion, into this ecstatic possibility of opening up, was through de-armouring. It was through internal, external, taking all the tension out of the pelvic area. So we have done that with a couple of practitioners and started to work with them. And that was actually for myself then the realization. So if this body is not much different than to a woman's body, because in our mother's uterus, when this fetus was just 10 weeks old, there was no separation between masculine and feminine. So the core of my cell must be the same. So this body must be feminine then. Because there's just coming one Y chromosome along that is growing my genitals outside. But in the organs, everything is the same between men and women. That what we know as our penis is the woman's clitoris, and that's not only the tip of the iceberg, it goes internally, and it's a huge organ that goes into the vagina walls towards the womb. And the man's prostate is the woman's G-spot. It's all the same. We have all the same muscles, we have all the same nerves. We can all same, in our pee and poo reflex, we can all control and hold that. So that must be possible for us men when we are de-armored in our pelvic area, and that comes back to your question. When we are de-armored in our pelvic area, when we can relax in sexual energy and there's no contraction in our genitals, then there must be a possibility of going into infinite expansion through sexual energy without contracting, because we can't hold it. Any questions on that?
I didn't know about the details going inside so deep.
Pardon?
I didn't know about that going inside.
The clitoris. Yeah, it's fascinating. If you Google it, you can see how amazing the structure of the clitoris is and where it goes.
I knew you
and how
had
it's
an
connected to.
external or an internal orgasm. And so it must have to do with that, no?
Yeah, it has to do with that a lot. So an interesting piece of that is that, and I like this quote from a teacher. He's saying enlightenment lies in the woman's womb, and the masculine way of mentalizing that and just like making concepts out of that is just a big joke. So when we men actually able to learn to relax, and when we are present and don't need and don't want anything from the feminine to having our le petit moi, our 3 seconds of just like thing, when we can relax there and the man's penis is touching the woman's vagina without having this need or want to go somewhere, and the woman is relaxed itself, if there is no pain, if there is no trauma, if there is no tension, if there is no I have to pleasure him that he has an orgasm, otherwise he thinks I'm not sexy and he don't love me anymore, thoughts and belief systems. If this is all relaxed and sexual interaction just happens out of arousal without any agenda, without any need, without any want, then something really beautiful happens. And that's the main thing, hasn't anything to do with man, and that's only a woman's possibility. This enlightenment that lies in the woman's womb is very much related to one specific nerve, that's so-called vagus nerve. And the vagus nerve is connected to the womb and to the cervix. And the vagus nerve is the main nerve that is activated when we all are, men and women, on our parasympathetic nervous system. That's based on relaxation, rejuvenation, and expansion. So when that happens, this kind of all this, and we men are we able to hold space and being present, we are diving on the feminine autobahn into heaven. And instead of going there, running there, and just like stealing a flower or something, we're just able to hold space, be present, and exploring this divinity, this heaven on earth here with our partner, where we're merging into oneness. That's a totally different dimension than that, what we know as casual sex. Any other questions?
All have to know that.
How long has tantric sex been out there, and where does it origin from?
Oh, that's... I know from Osho that Osho had a book of Tantra. He has written that, and it's a novel. And it's a thousands and thousands of year-old tradition that comes actually from India. And I haven't studied Tantra. I haven't studied the tradition of Tantra. But it's an ancient, very old art form where the sexual energy, or the cultivation of sexual energy and the cultivation of the orgasm, was one of the keystones in there. But I can't answer that question that deep because I don't know. Definitely a long time before I was born and had my awakening.
Thousands of years.
Yeah, thousands.
So it's nothing new. What I'm telling you is nothing that
About it.
it just starts to getting remembered.
I found the 3-week procedure very interesting. And I mean, at the end of the day, when we think about when the first human beings were actually walking on planet Earth, evidently in times of cavemen, etc., obviously our lives were extremely different then. And I say our lives were because as we are family, like we stood up here before, we go back all the way back to that period of time, you know. I wonder if the 3-week scenario there has got anything to do with the fact that in those times, evidently there was a lot of very dangerous animals around that could be a threat. If maybe it could have a lot to do with the fact of men then used to have to leave quite fast, and they used to have to travel a long way away in order to be able to find and recollect food, etc., etc. I wonder if it could stem from maybe from there. I'm sorry, I tend to go a little bit.
It's all right. To look at your question first is, whose reality is it that we all evolved from cavemen? We're living on a planet at a time where there's some really advanced civilizations and some really organic and aboriginal civilizations at the same time. I like to look at us as vibrational beings, star beings if you like, from different star systems in animal bodies. Okay? So this is where the sympathetic and the parasympathetic nervous system come into play, is because this is an animal body. And if you look at animals, the dogs are away at the moment, but they'll be resting, breathing, relaxed. If there's danger, instantly, hairs up, tails up, there's barking, there's aggression, whatever it is, to attack, defend. Then, when it's over, they shake themselves, reset onto their parasympathetic, the tails start wagging, and they're back what we're doing again. And this is what we have to remember. We're a star being of consciousness in an animal's body. What does it mean to be in an animal's body? And how can we support this body to remember to live life in relaxation on the parasympathetic, that there's nothing out there to do us harm.
And there are a lot of animals call themselves humans. They're still running their sexual energy and their interaction in an environment as if they still live in a cave and fighting and doing everything quick, including sex and eating and everything else, without having remembered that there is another connection.
And Anya had a question too earlier. What do you do when there's a lot of sexual energy? Okay, if you start cultivating your sexual energy and removing the blocks and barriers that you've built against that natural flow of energy, what happens? What do I do with this energy? How do I sublimate this energy? And that's really important because there's a lot of it. So where do I channel it? First of all, within the body, it's really important, diet, exercise, nutrition, a daily practice. Not just cardiovascular work that's in strengthening the body, but flexibility to expand and make space in the body for this energy to flow. Another thing is using breath. Really important. Where breath flows, energy goes. And where consciousness is directed. If the energy is stuck in one place in the body, you can move your body, you can breathe, and ideally you can move that energy up your spine, up the back, and bring it down the front in the microcosmic orbit. And to do that, you place the tip of your tongue on the roof of your mouth, which completes that orbit, and you can circulate it. But then to use it consciously in your lovemaking, in your life, in your everyday life, and in your creation. There's a lot you can do by channeling sexual energy for creation. Whether that means creating a baby or creating a project.
Yeah, there are different ways of Tantra in there. And so there's the so-called white Tantra, and the pink Tantra, and the red Tantra, and the black Tantra. And one important piece about the black Tantra is that the way of Tantra has been or the sexual way of Tantra in Black Tantra has been quite misused for powering and overpowering others, using sexual energy for personal agenda. Just like gaining more power over others, making more money, making more environmental strength. But this is not what it is about. In the way of unconditional love and opening up into this infinity divine connection, it is just finding this way of unconditional love and channeling this energy for the greatest good of all. just for our own soul evolution, for individual people and planet, giving it into a collective growth, letting our environment just expand in love and wholeness. It depends on how our agenda is and how our level of consciousness is.
Any other questions? Did that answer your question, Pastor?
Okay.
You talk about sexual energy. If you have pent-up sexual energy, is it better to release it, or is it better to cultivate it and transform it into something else?
I didn't understand pent-up.
It's a personal choice what you want to do with it. You can.
Is it possible to cultivate it and transform it?
And transform it.
What?
Yeah.
Creative.
Channel it into creativity.
Uh-huh.
Into creating, because we're all creators. We're constantly creating our reality. It's wherever we're focusing our consciousness on. So if we can give ourselves the freedom that we're no longer stuck in our we story, dwelling on the past, dramas and traumas and feeding consciousness to them, if we can clear that, be here in the present moment, and channel that energy into consciously creating a new reality on the planet, for us, our community, our country, our continent, at whatever stage you want to work on, then it's hugely transformative. And this is what we need to reclaim, is our power as creators. Really take responsibility of the reality we're creating. You know, we weren't born to come into the world, go to school, eat our lunch, go to study, get married, have children, get mortgages, retire, die. That's fate. We all have a unique destiny on the planet. We all have a purpose for being here. Some is to bring other life and others is not. What is your purpose? Where is your passion? You'll often find your purpose and passion are closely related. Where is your life force going to flow through you? And how do you manifest that?
Yeah, and sexual energy is an important piece of that. I just like bring this into a picture like you're having a house with 7 or different layers, and sexual energy is just like as if you don't having a basement. It's just like this is where the foundation is of your house, and you can be very spiritual and up there on the top floor. If your basement is just like not really clean and cleared, this is just like if there is no way to make connection.
It's
not a very
about
whole house.
often grounding that. A lot of our spiritual practices are all upper chakras, connection with the divine. And in that way we can be amazing visionaries. We can see the future, we can know what's coming, but then we can't manifest because our root chakra and our sacral chakra are dysfunctional for whatever reason. So actually being able to bring that energy down, anchor it and manifest it, that's what we're here for, is often missing from our intimate relating. That we often give to get, do something to somebody else what we want done to ourselves instead of asking for it, instead of owning our desires. Or often it's like that pharmaceutical factory kicks in, the oxytocin, the dopamine's flowing, the heart's open, and you kind of go on a journey without stopping or pausing and saying, hey, do I want to go here with this person and all of their blueprint? Do I want to share my field with their field? And really, you know, bringing consciousness into these interactions, we start interacting it with a different awareness that brings more presence to the interaction and more energy to the interaction, and also means that we don't end up having interactions that might not serve us or we don't want afterwards.
So, how every individual, unique way for you looks to enter your sexuality is absolutely your cup of tea. That can look any way. And however that looks for you, it's your way, that's okay and beautiful. And that's not what it is about, what we're teaching, how it should look, as I said that. So you know that, and that's perfect.
And if you don't know it, these tools give you an opportunity to discover what that is.
Yeah, so the way how we entering into the field of conscious communication and conscious touch is that we're having a very clear differentiation of interaction. And this is one of the cornerstones in not only session work that we're offering, that's as well a cornerstone of our interaction. And this should be a cornerstone of everybody's interaction. And that's based on a very clear consent, so finding agreement and making clear and clean requests about what you want to do with whom with. So a very important piece is of understanding, and this is where most people and couples totally mixed up with, is to just clearing the energy spaghetti that is just based on interaction. And I'll just give you an example how it mostly looks. Most of the time, if you're having a partner or not, or you had a partner, and this partner has an clear intention and just want to be nice, just want to serve you, want to do something good to you. So he's touching you in a certain way, or it's just like doing something to you because he won't make you to feel good. So he's in a service, he thinks. He is interacting with you in a way to do something to you that feels good to you. But you might not in that mood in the moment. And then he sees when he's doing something to you that this is not giving the expression on your face that he might like to see. So he starts to do something different. And you may perceive that as something, oh no, he's doing all this different stuff to me, and you receive that as something as if your partner is taking from you. He's doing something to you for his own sake, for his own benefit. But actually he has this intention, he wants to do something for you to feel good. So he's doing all this stuff, and you thinking he's doing it all for themselves. Without communication, it creates immediately a contraction and a misunderstanding. Somebody knows what I'm talking about? Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's quite common in relationship. It's one of the most things where relationship and interaction starts to crash. So you, as the person who is just feeling there's something happening to you, doing to you, you feeling yourself kind of just like violated or victimized, or feeling all this kind of action towards you where you haven't been asking for, and shutting yourself more and more down. And this person who is just like doing something to you, maybe with a good intention, maybe not, is doing something to you and think it's just like, oh my God, I'm doing all this stuff here to you and it's never enough and I'm never doing it right, and stop touching you in a way, and then all of a sudden the interaction starts to just like fade away and just go to sleep. In the very beginning, when the honeymoon period is there, when you fall in love with somebody, and all the hormones and neurotransmitters are there, then it's just like, well, you can't get enough from each other. It doesn't matter where, how, when, or what, you just want to touch and just make love. But the honeymoon period has just like an expire date. And that's normally 3 months. The expire date is just like for procreation. But there's a beautiful thing when you are there to reinvent this honeymoon period with conscious interaction and conscious touch, and without peeking it out, because the peeking out is part of the honeymoon. It's just to making babies. But if you don't make or want to make babies, you can just expand your honeymoon period as long as you want. You can reinvent your honeymoon period, and you can just dive into this field of bliss. So what I'm talking about is a very clear way of serving somebody. So every interaction between humans in physicality is just only based on 4 different modalities. I'm very much passionate about this way of interacting, because if you just get that in, it's a possibility for infinite of interaction with anybody you like to interact with and anybody who like to interact with you. The first piece is of serving, and that might be you who is serving, or somebody else is serving. And the other person who is being served is the person who is accepting, or you are accepting when the other person is serving. Very important interaction, and serving and accepting always happens with a clear request, and the clear request is, how might I serve you? Because without knowing how you might serve somebody, you can't know how to serve somebody. When you're doing something to somebody without knowing how to serve them, they perceive that as doing to you, or maybe as something that you don't want. So it's an important piece in serving, making a request, how may I serve you, or you just requesting clearly how you want to be served. Without that, serving is not possible. Another important piece is, and that's very much made wrong in society, is taking and allowing. Taking is something where we having an action towards somebody for our own benefit. Or somebody has an action towards you for their benefit. And that needs as well a clear, conscious communication. What do I want to do to you? Or what you want to do to me? Without this interaction, it falls out of alignment, and this is where raping and victimizing is happening. In most intimate relationships, the interaction is taking and allowing from each other. This is where we all have a deep longing, is to surrender to somebody's action towards us out of integrity. And we're feeling integrity and we can surrender, we can just dive and expand. And without conscious communication, without conscious touch, it's impossible. Maybe you're lucky. You have somebody who is able to feel you, maybe not. But the maybe not can be quite easily removed through conscious communication.